Okay. Hello there. Okay, three, two, one. Hello there. Last week, I promised we were going to go deeper into the metabolic health conversation, into insulin, and explaining why those energy crashes, cravings, and afternoon slumps are happening and what is happening in your body. And so many times it's like, I'm working harder than I've ever worked before. Why is this happening? Today, we are going to talk about it. And I want to start with this. Your metabolism is responding loudly. It may be frustrating, but it is very specific. So once you know this and know what your body is responding to, you can actually start changing the conversation. In this episode, we're going to cover what blood sugar instability actually looks like. We're going to talk about it in a perimenopausal body, but honestly, this conversation is so good for everyone, male, female, your father down to your son, your daughter to your aunt. These are just good topics to have in your back pocket whenever you're thinking through blood sugar and that metabolic health. Okay. While we're talking about the perimenopausal body, take note of these things and really focus on maybe some other people in your life that this would be helpful for. So, we are going to discuss how to recognize the signs of a dysregulated metabolism, what protein has to do with it, and how your body is actually absorbing and using the protein you're eating. This one is very practical. You might want to grab a notepad and take some notes. So, how many of you have been here before? We've got these symptoms, we can't figure out what's going on, and they seem like they're separate problems. Like maybe you have fatigue and anxiety, aching, cravings, brain fog, shakiness. These are not separate. A lot of times, these are the same system in our body talking. We have to listen to what it's saying. So I hear this frequently, this type of day frequently. So you wake up and you're feeling fine. By 10 a.m., you need something sweet. You have lunch, you feel fine for 40 minutes to an hour, then you hit a wall. By 3 p.m., you're looking in the fridge, going through every cabinet drawer, having an argument with yourself, like, I don't need this. Yes, I do. You know, that argument. You have dinner, then you feel better. Then you can't sleep. Does any of this sound familiar? This is a blood sugar story. Every single part of it, every single part. Here is what's happening. So, in our perimenopausal body, estrogen directly influences insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism. As it fluctuates, that estrogen is going up and down, remember, so does our body's ability to maintain steady blood sugar levels. So the result is a roller coaster of highs and crashes that drive cravings, fatigue, mood swings, and that lovely fat storage, particularly that visceral fat. Remember that bad visceral fat that we talked about a couple of episodes ago? Um, so here are some other signs that could be blood sugar dysregulation. You're waking up tired even after a full night of sleep. That means that your blood sugar could be dropping overnight. I love a continuous glucose monitor for this because you can really look at the times you're waking up at night and compare it with what your blood sugar is doing during that time. How about needing caffeine or sugar to function in the morning? I love my coffee. I will be honest with you, but I can go without it most of the time. So, struggling to generate energy from the food efficiently that we're having. Energy crashes 60 to 90 minutes after meals. This is a classic blood sugar spike, then drop. Intense cravings for sugar and carbs in the afternoon. That is your body asking for a quick glucose fix. How about feeling irritable, anxious, foggy in between meals? This is a neurological symptom of blood sugar instability. Ooh, this next one. How about feeling full or satisfied after eating, but you haven't really eaten that much, that is your insulin signaling affecting your hunger hormones. Okay, the waist circumference, we've talked about this a few times. So your waist circumference increasing without any weight gain, that visceral fat driven by chronic insulin elevation. Remember that visceral fat is the bad fat is that rust in our pipes. Okay, so think about that. How about diarrhea shortly after eating? I know people don't like to talk about their bathroom habits. I talk about bathroom habits multiple times a day. So we're going to get into that here. So don't feel embarrassed by it. These are signs that your body is giving you. So diarrhea shortly after eating, this is a classic sign that your body is in go mode and it cannot regulate your insulin. It's all or nothing, basically. How about difficulty sleeping through the night? You wake up and you're wide awake, your eyes are open, can't go back to sleep. This could be your blood sugar dropping, then triggering a cortisol release. Remember, we talked about that in episode 1. So here's some other things. Thirsty all the time. You just cannot get enough hydration. Slow healing. You get a sore and it takes forever to heal. Shakiness, that just like tremory type shakiness that you can't control. Frequently sick, your immune system's tanked out, headaches. That's a big one too. So those, go back and listen to this if you need to. Make a checklist of those things. And if you are experiencing 3 or more of those consistently, I want you to write them down. I want you to note them, because while it may be common in our circle of people and in our communities, that is not normal. We've just normalized something that is abnormal. So take note of that. This is your body waving a flag, a metabolic flag waving. Okay. It's saying, listen to what I'm saying. This is not about aging. This is information. We can help your body if you recognize the signs. So don't put your head in the sand. I know a lot of people are like, if I just ignore it, it's not happening. But because you're listening to this, I know that you are wanting to help yourself. And having this information is going to give you the ability to get the assistance you need so that you don't have those blood sugar crashes, so that your body can use your insulin correctly. Okay. So don't feel stressed out about it. Don't feel like it's too much. I'm going to help you out here and give you some guidance. Okay. So let's talk about insulin. Insulin's job at the base is just to move glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells for energy. It seems so simple. In insulin resistance, the cells stop responding efficiently. So glucose stays in the blood longer and the pancreas pumps out more insulin to compensate. So you can see how this loop can really cause stress on the body. High insulin levels do 3 things that matter enormously. So they promote fat storage, particularly that visceral fat. They drive hunger and cravings, and they suppress the body's ability to burn fat for fuel. So when insulin is chronically elevated, your body is essentially locked out of its own fat stores. You have the energy available, it's there, it's just behind a door that your metabolism cannot answer. So it's in there, you just can't use it. So what's happening in your body whenever you have that afternoon crash? So you have a high carb lunch. Let's say you have a sandwich for lunch, a lot of bread, not much protein, not much fat, not much fiber. Then your blood sugar spikes. Then you have an insulin surge because your body's like, uh-oh, better catch up. Then your blood sugar drops below the baseline. You get exhausted. You get that sugar craving. You're reaching for something to bring your sugar levels back up. It's just our body's natural response. Then you keep going through that loop. And don't worry, we're going to talk about what to do. But I do want to talk about a couple more things here. So waist measurement as a marker. We've talked about this. This isn't about, I have this size waist. This is really about one of the most accessible indicators of visceral fat and insulin dysregulation. Okay. So I don't want you to take this as me coming down on you, because that's not at all what this is. But if you start to see that that waist size is trending upwards over months or maybe a year, independent of what's happening on the scale, that is metabolic information worth paying attention to. That is your body talking to you, okay? So here are some labs that are really useful for this topic: fasting insulin, fasting glucose, your HbA1c, and your triglyceride to your HDL ratio. These paint a much clearer picture of your metabolism than just a standard cholesterol panel. These things all are in connection. So your waistline is a metabolic dashboard. It's not telling you that you need to diet harder. It's telling you that your insulin environment needs attention, okay? We cannot ignore these signs. So what helps with this? Protein. Protein can help with this. So for most women over 40, we need 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Please don't freak out. I know that sounds like a lot, because for a 150-pound woman, that is 105 to 150 grams of protein, which sounds like so much. And I know that sounds like a lot, because a lot of the people that I'm seeing, they're eating maybe 30 to 40 grams of protein. And whenever we get them on a higher protein diet, protein, fat, fiber diet, then they can really see a lot of differences in their body. So why? Why does protein matter? Protein directly improves insulin sensitivity. It helps stabilize our blood sugar. It supports our muscle maintenance. Got to have the muscles. And it keeps our hunger hormones regulated. The single most impactful dietary change for it is the single most impactful dietary change for metabolic health in midlife. And honestly, remember, this conversation can be for anyone. The key distinction in eating protein is not the same as absorbing protein. Okay, so you can be putting protein into your body, but what is your body doing with it? That's the same with anything we're eating: our fat, our fiber, protein, our supplements. We can be putting them in, but what is our body actually doing with it? Protein digestion requires a lot of things. It requires adequate stomach acid. How many of you all are on stomach acid reducers, some proton pump inhibitors, something like that? That means you don't have a lot of stomach acid, even though we've been told over the years, you feel like you have acid reflux, you have too much stomach acid. I have dealt with so many people who have been through this, and honestly, testing stomach acid, I have never ran across one person who has too much stomach acid, okay? So it's just what your body is doing with what you're putting in there. Digestive enzymes. Ooh, this is a good one. We're going to go more in depth on that here in a minute. And we need a healthy gut environment. So all of these things: stomach acid, HCl, digestive enzymes, and your healthy gut environment, all of these things can be compromised, especially in midlife, particularly if you're under chronic stress. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about absorption strategies for protein. So let's start with stomach acid and HCl. Stomach acid declines with age and stress. Did you hear that? Stomach acid declines with age and stress. So low stomach acid means protein is not being broken down efficiently before reaching the small intestine. Signs of low stomach acid are feeling full quickly, burping after meals, bloating after protein-rich meals, undigested food or supplements in your stool. How many of you have ever felt like you have an alien in your stomach? Like you can literally feel your stomach pushing out, things happening in there. This can be one of those signs of low stomach acid. Okay, digestive enzymes. Don't come at me because I may not pronounce this correctly, but I know it well. Proteases are the enzymes specifically responsible for breaking down protein, okay? So a broad spectrum digestive enzyme will contain protease. Particularly with larger protein meals, we really need this to help break down. Okay. This can significantly improve absorption and reduce dietary discomfort. I can speak on this personally from a couple of different routes. So, one, my body has a hard time assimilating or using protein, and it always has, especially whey protein. So, I've known that for a really long time. But then, double whammy, I've had my gallbladder removed. So your gallbladder stores all of these great digestive enzymes, not just for protein, but for fats and carbs and all the other enzymes that we need to digest our food. And without a gallbladder, your system has to suddenly make those as you're eating food. So I've been on digestive enzymes for a long time, and I will tell you what, they are a game changer. So they can significantly improve absorption and reduce that dietary digestive discomfort. Okay. So here's something else that you can do is you can space out the protein that you're eating to make sure, one, that you don't have that digestive discomfort, but also that your body is effectively using the protein that you're eating. You could what a day would look like that I would suggest for a lot of my clients is eating breakfast, having a snack, eating lunch, having a snack, eating dinner, and then maybe even having a snack before bed. If you have one, the insensitivity, insulin insensitivity, no, insulin dysregulation, or if you have trouble with digesting protein, okay? So that's a twofold situation. Okay. So now here's something that is so easy to do, so easy to add in. And I think it might be the hardest thing for some of my clients. So it's chewing slowly, chewing a lot, and being mindful of eating, what you're eating, how you're eating it, what you're watching or listening to while you're eating. All of that affects your digestion because your digestion begins in the mouth. So chewing thoroughly activates salivary enzymes. So we have enzymes in our mouth too, not just in our stomach. So those enzymes then signal to the stomach, hey, we're eating something. It's time for you to start preparing a good amount of enzymes down there so that this can be broken up. Eating quickly and under stress, that sympathetic dominance, do you remember talking about that way back? That actively impairs our digestion. So slowing down is physiological preparation for eating. How cool is that? It's not just some woo-woo mindfulness advice. So really pay attention to how you're chewing, making sure that you're chewing up things and what you're watching and listening to while you're eating. Don't watch the news. Don't watch something stressful. Do things that are helping to actively lower your stress. Okay. Okay. Here's the next piece of this. So, probiotics and gut health. Your gut microbiome plays a significant role in protein metabolism and amino acid availability. So, what does that mean? A compromised microbiome, that's all the good bacteria in your stomach. And this can be compromised from stress, poor sleep, dietary restrictions, not having enough enzymes, those acid reducers, all of these things play into this. And then throw on top of that, in perimenopause, our microbiome gets even more disrupted. So it reduces the gut's ability to process proteins a lot of times, just whenever we need them most. And a quality probiotic can definitely help with this. Prebiotic fiber. So there's probiotics. Probiotics are like the good guys, the good bacteria that we put in. The prebiotic fiber, you see some of the fiber bars and all of that stuff. Please stay away from those. Most of them are not great for you. Most of them have a lot of stuff. Look at the label, read your label. But prebiotic fiber, like psyllium or, anything prebiotic fiber, That supports the environment protein, that supports the environment protein needs to do its job. Okay? So I'm going to say that again. Okay. These things are all common in perimenopause, and they reduce the gut's ability to process protein. So a quality probiotic and increasing probiotic fiber will support the gut's environment that protein needs to do its job. Okay. I know this seems like so much information, and come back to this anytime you need to listen to it. That's why I wanted to make these episodes short, because I want you to have little bits that you can digest information wise and be able to come back to them anytime you need. So in short, you can be eating all the right things and still not be getting the benefit of it if your digestive system does not have what it actually needs to break down and absorb the nutrients. Getting protein in is step one. Getting protein absorbed is the step most people are skipping entirely, and you don't even know it. So, what are we going to do with this information? One, we're not going to put our head in the sand. That's just, not going to help with anything. But here's some practical application things that you can do. I just want to reiterate these things. Okay. So start with blood sugar stabilization. Eat within an hour of waking up. Include protein in every meal. And if you're struggling with your insulin levels, try not to go longer than 4 or 5 hours between meals. If you seem like your glucose is doing fine, you're not struggling with any of these things, then you could go breakfast, lunch, dinner and get in your protein probably. It's just what your gut is doing with it. Check in with that. Reduce those high glycemic foods that drive that spike crash cycle. So don't just eat a piece of bread. Okay. Put some protein with it. If you want to have bread, then put some protein with it. Put a vegetable with it. Make sure you've got protein, fat, fiber, protein, fat, fiber. Okay. And this is really important. Build up your protein gradually. Okay. So don't jump from, hey, I've been having 50 grams a day to 150 grams a day. Okay. That is going to make you have a really upset stomach and make you really mad at me. Please gradually increase this, like 20 to 30 grams per week. Okay. And if you think about that, that's not that long until you've increased your amount to what you need. Okay. So you can track this, write it down, and just look at your plate. Where is your protein? How much protein are you getting? Okay. Add that digestive enzyme. So protease before you eat. Track how your digestion is responding after you do that. And sometimes it can take a couple of weeks for this to really be noticeable. But pay attention. Pay attention to how you're feeling 60 to 90 minutes after meals. That window is your metabolic feedback loop. Okay. Energy stable is a good signal. Crashing, that's a blood sugar story that needs adjusting. We have to tune into that story. Waist measurements, don't do this daily. I would say at the very, very most, do it monthly. This is just data. This is just data. Okay. I don't want you to get caught up in this number. But if you notice your pants are not fitting the same, but the scale is staying the same. And I don't recommend, I know I've said this before, I don't recommend weighing daily for sure. Definitely not daily. Try to go at least a week, but honestly, I feel like a month. Look at how your clothes are fitting. Look at how you're feeling. Those are your guidelines. Okay, so let's bring it all together. So your metabolism is giving you signals, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's responding to an estrogen-driven shift in insulin sensitivity, blood sugar regulation, and nutrient absorption. I don't know about you, but nobody prepared me for all of this, the changes that happened during this time. The cravings, the crashes, the belly fat, broken sleep patterns, those are all connected. They're addressable. Protein is one of our most powerful dietary layers. So our body can only do with what it can actually use. So remember, you put things in, but what is your body doing with that? Really recognize that. Look for those signs. Okay, I know that that's been a lot, but I want to just recap these things. These are your key takeaways. So, metabolic dysfunction has specific recognizable signs. Three or more of those signs, remember, it's time to pay attention. And this is for everyone in your life, not just during perimenopause. Insulin resistance is driven by estrogen fluctuations, not just our diet. Protein is such an impactful dietary change for midlife metabolic health. So don't forget the protein. Where's the protein? Do any of you remember where's the beef? Doesn't have to be beef, but it does need to be protein. Okay, so eating protein and absorbing protein, those are two different things. What is your body doing with what you're putting in it? Lastly, stomach acid, digestive enzymes, spacing, chewing, gut health, all of these things determine how much benefit we're actually getting out of what we're putting in our body. Okay, so pay attention to these things. How are you feeling after you're eating? Whew. Okay. I know that that's a lot, and I know that that's given you a lot to think about. And if you would like a clear starting point, the second half starter guide. Okay. If today's episode gave you a lot to think about and you want a clear starting point, the second half strong starter guide covers protein foundations, what to eat and when, and how to start building the metabolic. Okay. If today's episode gave you a lot of things to think about and you want a clear starting point, the second half strong starter guide covers protein foundations, what to eat and when, and how to start building the metabolic environment we talked about today. It's free in the show notes. So grab it. Go get it now. And if this resonated with you, and you can think of anyone, not just someone who's in perimenopause or menopause, that would get help from this because they feel like they're doing everything right nutritionally and still not feeling good. This might be the missing piece that they need. Might not be the absorption, or it might be the absorption issue, not so much the intake issue. What is your body doing with it? Share this with her, okay? Or him. Next week, we're wrapping up this first chapter of the show with something practical and exciting. I wish I could do a little drum roll. That's the best I can get. Creatine, collagen, and the supplements that might actually move the needle in midlife. So I'm excited to talk about this with you. There's so many great things out there. And until then, have a great day.